Imagine having the time and money to follow your passions and live life on your own terms. Welcome to Podcasting Mastery, where you'll learn the secrets of podcasting your way to a stress-free lifestyle. Let's grab a cool tropical drink and then join James, Kimberly, and the Turtle in the Secret Beach Hut Studio.
Yes, you bet. This is James Martell along with Kimberly Juchnowski.
Hello, everyone.
And again, we are tucked into the Secret Beach Hut Studio with the Turtle today. We found him. He's back. And we are glad you've decided to join us in the last episode. If you joined us in episode number 5, we talked about how to leverage your time by using audio to scatter your sales message all over the internet. We talked about Matt Frary from Smarter Chaos, Chief of Chaos for Smarter Chaos, with his podcast, Chaos Makes Sense, and how he's done exactly that to drive more business and to communicate with his existing clientele and newsletter list. This week, though, we're going to continue our conversation, Kimberly, about developing a lifestyle business so we can all spend less time doing business and enjoying more time with family, more traveling, more time doing the things we want to do. So it's for these reasons we focus on strategies for both developing a passive monthly income stream and passive ways of developing new clients and customers for your business. Today we're going to be talking about how to come up with a never-ending list of interesting topics for your show.
This is one of my favorite topics, actually. I think this all the time. I actually think this on a regular basis. But everybody thinks it until you start talking about something. But we'll get into that later on. How about before we get into it all, let's play a little Thai music today to help set the tone for the show, since I've done so much travel in Thailand, and that's a place that really has got a special spot in my heart.
With Thai in mind, and before we talk about coming up with a never-ending list of interesting topics for your show, which is also one of my favorite topics because I hear it all the time. As with the last episode with Matt Frary, he said, James, what am I going to talk about? Who am I going to interview? How am I going to find guests? Does anybody really want to listen to what I have to say? The answer is maybe. if you have...
At least we're honest here. So.
That's right. If things are structured properly and you know who you're talking to, the answer is yes. But that's not a given, and we're going to talk about how to make sure you can increase your chances dramatically of connecting with your audience and building your audience by having a never-ending list of topics for your show. Before we do that, though, and with Thailand in mind, Kimberly, share with the listeners, and tell me again, if you would, the elephant story.
Which one, James? There's many.
Pick your favorite.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I think it was our first trip to Thailand. Yeah, it definitely was. This is me and my best friend Christine. We went to Thailand for the first time. It was in 2005, 2006, I believe. Yeah, one of the main attractions there is doing awesome things with elephants, either caring for them or riding them or feeding them. So we were doing a trek, actually, which had, it was a 3-day trek. And then on the second day was like the elephant portion of the trek. So you hike for about 8 hours into the jungle and then you get into these little villages in the hills. And this particular village was where they had some elephants, right? So that village specifically cares for, say, a dozen or so elephants, and that's how they keep their economy going there, is they get these tour guides to come in and they pay them, of course, and they'll take you through the forest, right? So it was nice to get a little bit of a break from the walking. So we got to go for about, I think it was an hour elephant ride through the jungle to sort of take us to our next spot. And that was interesting.
Is that the time where you were in the water with them all too?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We were definitely going through the water. But the thing about this elephant was, for some weird reason, I don't know why, I feel like it was like trying to destroy us. So we're on the little, I don't know what you call it. It's like a bench that I'm sure there's a name for it. They attach it to the top of the elephant. So you're basically sitting on this little bench.
You probably call it a seat.
Yeah, like a seat, a bench seat thing. And there's a little rope that's acting as a seatbelt, but it's not really a seatbelt at all. And you can move around freely on this thing, right? And our elephant was in a bad mood or just not listening. All the other elephants, no problem. This guy had issues. He wanted to go off to the side. He wanted to eat. Like, he was just trying to forage and things like that. And And the guy that was in charge of him, he was, they're called mahouts actually. So his mahout was, kept like knocking him, don't eat elephant, don't eat, you gotta go this way. He totally wasn't listening and got so frustrated, it seemed, that just decided that I'm gonna sit down. And so this gigantic elephant with me and Christine on the back decide to start sitting down, and when they sit down, they roll onto their side. So we're flying off the side of this thing, like hanging on for dear life, because you're 12 feet in the air, so it's not a small drop down. And the elephant literally was trying to sit down and like roll us onto the ground. It was horribly terrifying. That was our first experience on an elephant, so it was really, really, really cool, but also very, very scary at the same time. So I actually was fortunate enough to do many more things with elephants after that and got to ride them just like bareback on their necks and things like that, which actually is a lot more comfortable because those seat things scare me. You can slide off them so easily, and like my history with getting injured is not very good.
This almost dying on the back of an elephant probably ties nicely into our topic today.
Oh yeah, we would have been squished. We would have been toast for sure if it had actually went all the way down. And the guy was freaking out. Like, he got really aggressive and like, oh no, things weren't going right, you could tell. This wasn't something that happens and they sort out. Like, the Thai people were freaking out about it. They're like, oh my god, like these women are going to get crushed. So like, the fear in their eyes did not help us be calm at all. And I just like trying not to fall off this thing. Oh yeah, it was quite something, but it ended up being a great time. So
you bet. Yeah. Well, you got to have these adventures, and which really does tie into our next conversation, because we're talking about yes. Martin Brothers Funeral Homes next, who happens to be a client of ours. And if you didn't make it, maybe you would have been a client of theirs. But fortunately, you did make it, and. Yeah. That's a good thing. But interestingly enough, and again, in the whole theme of developing a lifestyle business so we can, in your case, travel more and spend more time with family and doing the things you want to do. Same with me and to listeners as well. Of course, our friends, you want to probably do the same thing. Break free. We all have our dreams and our goals. We want to get stuff done. And goodness knows, time sure seems to be marching on.
Yeah. Definitely is.
Very quickly. And now that you've hit the grand 30 number. Thanks
for that. Second time you've mentioned it in 6 episodes.
I know. I knew you when you were 22, so
right.
That's all right.
Caleb, let's get into it. I don't even bring up your age because I'm nice like that.
All right.
I can go into it.
Martin Brothers.
So let's get back to Martin Brothers. What was their challenge, James?
Their challenge was they are a brand new funeral home in Vancouver. They gave us a call, and of course the strategies we're talking about you can implement yourself. Of course, we've got a do-it-yourself course if you want to implement these strategies, but would like us to maybe walk you through it in a logical fashion so you can set this up for your own company. But I think you're going to find this is very interesting because, and this is why it ties so nicely into coming up with a never-ending list of interesting topics for your show, because in this particular case, we were looking at Martin Brothers thinking, what are we going to do with Martin Brothers? Brand new to Vancouver. Nobody knows them here from anybody. Very large in Alberta, our neighboring province. Established for over 100 years. You go onto their website and look at their photo gallery. Takes you right back to their
horse and carriage days.
Yeah, literally where they were pulling horses or pulling hearses with horses. And so they've been around forever in the Alberta area, but no reputation here at all. And the interesting thing about the funeral business I found working with them is that it's very family oriented, and most funeral homes have been owned by the same family for 100 years. So extremely well established. So for a new guy to come to town, competition-wise, it's a battle. So here's Dale. He comes to town. He was referred to us through a friend of ours, and we went and sat down with him actually at the funeral home in Vancouver, and it's the first time I've actually ever been in one, and he wanted to give me a tour of the coffins and all that stuff, and it was like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do this, but you know what, I've got to know them, and the thing that I've learned about those in the funeral business is really a calling they have, and it's a amazing service that they provide. I've learned a ton listening to their podcast for one, but in their particular case, they were looking for a way to penetrate the market, starting brand new. And how are we going to approach the market? How are we going to get known? How are we going to get the phone to ring? So very much like we did with Dr. Kale back in episode number 4, we did a little bit of cleanup on his SEO, cleaned up his website. He had a website for a few months here prior to us finding him, or prior to him calling us. But the website needed some work in the search engine area, so we did a little bit of that. We helped him with a little strategy to build reviews. But again, the biggest thing that we did was we provided him with, as you said in the last episode when we talked about Matt, a content strategy that revolved around a podcast. We needed to come up with a strategy for him to be able to increase the new clients calling the office, and we needed to provide a strategy for him to update not only his website on a weekly basis, but like everybody else, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Google+, the YouTube, all of these other places where his potential customers are hanging out, we needed to create a content strategy so that we could stay in front of those people continuously. So that's basically what we did, and I can tell you today, I had a good conversation with him yesterday. He's rocking it. I don't know if we can share any numbers. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about it after the break, but it's been an amazing ride. It's been over a year now that we've been doing it, working with Martin Brothers. They've got over 50 episodes, so it's a great example of being able to come up with an endless stream of interesting topics for your show. So if you're wondering, if you find yourself wondering, what am I going to talk about? Do I have enough to cover? Do people want to listen to me? Anything like that? I'm nervous. I'm scared of. I don't like my voice. Any of that? We can cover that shortly here.
Yeah, if a funeral parlor can come up with content, you can definitely come up with content.
That's right.
We are coming up at a break, though, so let us get to it. And when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about Martin Brothers. I'm really excited about this one because I love them as a client, and they are my favorite podcast by far out of any podcast I've listened to. So let's take it to break. Don't go away. We will be back shortly.
More Podcasting Mastery with James and Kimberly from the Secret Beach Hut Studio after this.
Is your website out of date? Is it mobile friendly? Why not let us design your website and we'll make sure it looks the way it should on all platforms and devices, including iPhones, iPads, and other smartphones and tablets. We'll even optimize your site for search engines and make it easy for you to share your content and products on social sites such as Facebook and Twitter with built-in sharing features. For more information and to schedule your no-obligation free consultation, go to podcastingmastery.com/website. Once again, that's www.podcastingmastery.com/website. Is your podcast getting bogged down because of time or technical issues? Would you prefer to let someone else handle all of the production and technical details? Our virtual producer works remotely from a studio to provide you with production, technical, and creative assistance. Our virtual producer will call you and your guest by phone or Skype, and then record, produce, and upload each episode with SEO-friendly show notes to your website for automated distribution to social media and the major podcast directories. Sound intriguing? Visit podcastingmastery.com/virtual producer to learn more. That's www.podcastingmastery.com/virtual producer.
Would you love to spend less time doing business and more time enjoying your family, more time traveling, and more time doing all of the things that matter to you most? Whether you're looking to develop a passive monthly income stream or you're looking for passive ways of generating new clients and customers for your business, James Martell's free podcasting webinar is the place to start. James Martell, an 11-year podcasting veteran, will show you how to quickly and easily launch a podcast that will impress all who hear it to attract all of the clients and customers you need, and how to do it all in less than 1 hour a week using equipment you already own. Register now for this lifestyle and business-changing webinar at podcastingmastery.com/webinar. We'll see you there. Once again, that's www.podcastingmastery.com/webinar. Now back to Podcasting Mastery from the Secret Beach Hut Studio.
And we are talking about Martin Brothers' funeral. And actually, the topic of today's show is how to come up with a never-ending list of interesting topics for your show. So for people who think, well, I don't have anything to talk about, I don't have any content, I don't know what to say, this is the perfect example, because Martin Brothers Funeral Homes is such an odd type of a business to start a podcast for. So I think in the beginning they're actually a little bit shocked about the suggestion of a podcast, but it actually fit really perfectly because people don't know a lot about funerals and funeral homes and protocol and things like that. So let's get back into a little bit about Martin Brothers and then discuss how it came up with all of the content.
Yes, it really is a great topic. And like anything, before we do that, maybe we could address this whole area of understanding who your ideal client is. And I'm sure we'll talk about this ongoing. But let's kind of talk about it here, because this is the cornerstone of understanding the type of content you need to create. Because as you know, Kimberly, and you and I have worked together on a lot of projects together, and you've helped me in a lot of areas and vice versa. If you know who your customer is, your ideal client is, and you know them very specifically, who they are and what their challenges are and what their problems are, and you have a solution for them, it makes it really easy to then start to brainstorm some of the ideas, some of the topic ideas that you may want to cover in your show, because you now know who you are talking to. And if I may sidebar here, and full disclosure to you that are listening, and we really appreciate you having on board with us, but I can guess I could probably pretty much figure out who you are, even though we may have never met. Kimberly, let's use our existing listeners, if we could, to talk about who they may be and what problems and challenges they may have. And then we can swing this back around to talk about Martin Brothers.
Okay, sounds good to me. First and foremost, I would say our audience are people who want to enjoy their life, who are interested in passive income earning. That is one quality that I would say that our audience definitely has. I
would say, and probably very entrepreneurial minded. Definitely business owners who have all the challenges I would think all business owners have. Need to increase revenues, need to make sure that there's enough money at the end of the month to not only pay all the bills, but to also have a paycheck yourself. You're probably limited on time. You probably maybe have a love-hate relationship with your business from time to time. Sometimes you absolutely love it. Other times you're wondering, what the heck am I doing?
Yeah, struggling with consistency.
You may have a desire to find more customers online. I would guess you do, because if you didn't, you probably wouldn't be here. You're probably looking to increase revenues, make more money, free up some time, put some marketing strategies in place that work without you needing to dote over them all the time. That's a great word, dote. And so on. So we have a profile of who we think we're talking to, and I think that's only a portion of it, but I think that's a good idea as to who we're talking to. And in your particular podcast, you'll do the same, and we'll talk about that. But let's talk about Martin Brothers now, because in their particular case, the unfortunate thing of their clients are dealing with a death in the family. And sometimes it's sudden, and sometimes it's expected, but no matter which of the two, it's always a shock, and it's always a very difficult time for people who lose a loved one. So they really know who their clientele is when they're talking to them, and they do such a beautiful job of articulating their message. So why don't we do this? Why don't you take us through some of the episode topics that they've covered off, and we'll use that as a good example of coming up with topic ideas in what might seem like an odd business for a podcast. But I think when you hear the topics being covered, you'll realize not only is Martin Brothers perfect to have their own podcast, but you may be and probably have a perfect business for it as well. So fire away, Kimberly.
Okay. I also remember when we first started with them, I was thinking, like, what the hell are these guys going to talk about? Because this is, like, weird, right? Like, how can you even brainstorm about it? And we actually oftentimes will come up with topics for our clients, but these people, they knew exactly what they were going to talk about, because they talk to these families all the time, and these families have these questions. And, it was something that he was really passionate about, really wanted to address, and really help the public understand before having to be faced with this situation. So here's just a list of some of the episode titles, which just shows you that each question a person would have in a situation with the loss of a loved one can be its own episode. So the first one they kicked off with was the benefits of funeral pre-planning. So this actually speaks to people before they're in the situation. So they're targeting a market who obviously hasn't passed yet, which is good. They're targeting their living market, if you will. But that's a huge, huge part of who they're targeting. And people don't think about that. They don't think about pre-planning a funeral. It's not something anybody does want to think about. But they position this episode as it being a gift for your loved ones so that they don't have to deal with the logistics of planning a funeral, right? So that's a really important topic. And it's interesting. It's so interesting. That's what I love about this podcast. It's the most interesting podcast. Knowing how to express sympathy is another episode. That's a good one. Yeah, right? I mean, everybody feels, not only are they in mourning, but people feel awkward sometimes at a funeral. If you've been to a service before, it's hard to know what the right thing to say is. Mm-hmm. And these are the people who know how to deal with these situations. They're so sensitive to what's happening, and they really know how to deal with it, and they give very great advice to a person in that situation and how you should talk to the family and things that may not be the right thing to say, which actually are things that we often say.
Yeah. One of the things I picked up out of that particular episode is, and you're so right, we don't usually know what to say, and we will sometimes say, well, he had a good life.
Yeah, and we always say the wrong thing, and we know it's the wrong thing, but you don't know an alternative.
That's right, and in their particular case, the right thing to say, or the nice thing to say, you've had a really big loss. I'm sorry.
Or talk about the person's name.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So give us another.
Funeral traditions, burial versus cremation. So this goes into, it's perfectly structured for SEO actually, because somebody who's looking at funeral pre-planning, or if they should have a burial or cremation, I mean, that's a good one to rank for sure.
You bet.
It tells you the differences, what your options are. It explains the financial side of it, which one's more cost effective, everything that you'd need to know like that.
Sorry, that's a good point. Sorry for cutting you off. That each episode is optimized for a question or for what somebody might be looking for. So the interesting about podcasting, there are some amazing SEO side benefits to it. It's not the reason you don't podcast because you want SEO benefits, but you do get a lot of SEO, search engine optimization benefits with a podcast. And just the kind of what you just said there, here's an episode that's addressing a really important topic, but it's also optimized in such a way that if somebody goes to Google and searches on that particular topic, they got a good chance of finding it. So,
like here are two back-to-back ones that are an exact example of what I just said. So cremation options in Vancouver, burials in Greater Vancouver. So we're in the Greater Vancouver area. That's their target market, like geographically. So we're hitting exactly what people are searching for.
You bet.
But to go back to a couple of the other topics, this one's kind of sad. Sorry, I wanted to mention this one because it's very interesting. So this episode was, how do I talk to my child about death? Yeah. And there's not a lot of information available on that, right? So I don't know. They're talking about really important things, and there's a never-ending list of topics that goes with this one very, very niche subject or service that they're offering.
Why don't you quickly run us through, say, 8 or 10 of them?
Sure. What happens at the funeral home, helping teens deal with death, before, during, and after funeral care, because it's not just a one-time thing, there's many stages.
Yes.
Dealing with disenfranchised grief, comforting aging parents through grief. So if one of your parents lost their life. Tips on writing an obituary.
Yeah.
Funeral services from around the world. The area we live in is very multicultural. We have a very large South Asian population, a lot of Chinese and Vietnamese people in the area, so they may have different rituals around death that they're looking for a service from. So these episodes address exactly that. Memorials, monuments, and keeping memories. Loss of life while traveling.
What happens if you really did get squished by that elephant?
Exactly. Yeah. And these people talk about it, which is great. Exploring a career in funeral service. Oh, which one was? They actually offer funeral services at sea. So family memorial ceremony at sea. So they actually take you out on the boat and spread the ashes and everything like that.
Sure.
Deciding between cremation and burial. Terms commonly used in funeral care, which is always good too, because sometimes it's like speaking Greek, right?
Every industry has its own 3-letter acronyms, it seems, no matter what business you're in. Somebody actually called me on that yesterday in the affiliate marketing industry. How many 3-letter acronyms do you guys have?
Yeah.
Well, about all of them. Yeah, we have way too many.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to address that, and I think this is just a great example. So let's kind of wrap this portion of the conversation up. But essentially, what you're seeing there is they're answering typical questions and challenges and problems that their clients will have.
Yeah. So they came up with a never-ending list of things because they've got a never-ending list of questions that people are asking. Absolutely. And everybody, doesn't matter what business you're in. Your customers are asking you questions. They're coming to you asking a question to solve their problem. So talk about that.
Absolutely, and things are changing continuously. You may be dealing in an industry where you've got different regulations that people need to be brought up on. You may be dealing with products and services that are changing, or maybe you're in the financial world where you have a financial show where the markets are fluctuating continuously. Things are changing. Things are happening. Anything that your clients would be interested in is something that you could and probably should be podcasting about, because just like we talked about with Matt in the last episode, leveraging your time. If you find yourself answering the same questions over and over and over and over again, my goodness, it's time to put that into a great little audio presentation in the format of a podcast that you can now offer up to people to have a listen to. So now the other thing, Kimberly, if we could, in a couple of these examples that we've provided, Matt Ferry in the last episode, even Dr. Kale in the episode number 4, and today talking about Martin Brothers, we do provide a host service. They will hear at the beginning of each of these podcasts a professional broadcast quality host actually kick off the episode, introduce the topic of the day, bring the expert on. In this case, it would be Dale Martin from Martin Brothers Funeral Homes, or maybe Valerie, who handles the Vancouver office. But then they conduct the interview to position the expert. For those of you who are considering your own podcast, the beautiful thing about podcasting is it almost instantly elevates you to expert status, because if you weren't an expert, why would you have a show on the topic, for goodness sake? Mm-hmm. And especially if you can add in a host to actually guide the interview and position you as the expert in the actual episode, my goodness, it's a great way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
So with your experience now working with some of our, what we call our virtual producers, these are our hosts that not only handle the actual interview themselves, they work with the editors to make sure the shows are edited up nicely, the intros, the outros are placed on it, and we've got full packages here that can handle maybe just the interview and hand you back the MP3 file, or we can have the full package where we take care of, like we do for Matt Ferry or Martin Brothers, where we handle everything. They just show up for 30 minutes each week, we record the interview, and then from that point on, we handle all of the heavy lifting. We actually produce the show with editing, the ums, the ahs. We add the intro, the outro. If there's a commercial or a radio cell ad set in the middle, we add that. We publish it to iTunes, all of the podcasting directories, the social media, their own websites. So we handle everything for them. It's very popular for busy business owners, because we just take care of it for them. And then, of course, as you said in this episode and the last, content is the problem that a lot of people have, and this actually solves the content problem, because each week they get a fresh episode and then distributed out through the audio broadcast network, which is all of those podcasting directories, SEO'd or search engine optimized for your local market if you're a local business, or more national if you're more national. Plus we set it up so it automatically updates all of your social media with your latest episode, and your newsletter, and your website, and even YouTube. So it's a pretty all-encompassing service. So a little bit more than the audio attention grabber service. The service information, you can find that at podcastingmastery.com if you're looking for maybe some help in the area of producing your weekly episodes. So now, Kimberly, with this in mind, it's I can see it's time for us to shift gears here a little bit. How about podcast tool of the day? We're really a little bit over time today, but
trying to rush
take us through the tool of the day.
Okay, so podcast tool of the day for today is Audio Jungle. You can find that at podcastingmastery.com/Audio Jungle. So what it is, it's royalty-free music for you to use on your podcast and anywhere else that you want to use your audio marketing. They have sound effects, songs, everything's royalty-free. You can get sound clips for $1 all the way up to, full tracks, like full 20-minute tracks for $18, $20. And these are like really good quality audio. That's definitely what you want to use. You don't want to rip anybody's music off. I hear this all the time on podcasts. It's a pet peeve of mine. No, you can't use U2 in your podcast. You don't have the right to. You're going to get nailed. So if you want to be successful and get huge, you're going to have a lawsuit following you. So go to podcastingmastery.com/Audio Jungle. Check it out. Get your royalty-free music there. Avoid any legal headaches later on.
You bet. Very good advice. Also, if you haven't purchased a headset yet, we have headset suggestions for you. at podcastingmastery.com/headset. And also, again, if you have your own podcast or a podcasting tool that you want us to feature on the show, email us here. Email the details to feature me at podcastingmastery.com, and we may just do exactly that. Also, a little freebie for you today. I would say, what do you think? Which one? Probably you pick.
Organize your podcast in 21 easy steps.
Yes, one of my favorites. This is a very nice little cheat sheet checklist to help you for your do-it-yourselfers, or even for those that may want to take us up on one of our services. It's really good to know what you're up against, and this will detail all of the steps that need to be taken to organize a very professional podcast that you'll be proud to share. All right, again, podcastingmastery.com/checklist. All right, Kimberly, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks for joining us in the Secret Beach Hut Studio. If you are ready to start your podcasting adventure and to learn the secrets of podcasting your way to a stress-free lifestyle, go ahead and download the free Podcasting Mastery Checklist at podcastingmastery.com/checklist and start your adventure today. But don't wait, the checklist won't be free for long, so be sure to grab your free copy today at podcastingmastery.com/checklist.